Hiya. Hiya. This is our special election night edition of Tuesday meditation with all the thrills and spills. How's everyone holding up?
Trying.
Uh-huh.
Can you meditate and call out Georgia at the same time?
As my mother would say, I'm plotzing. I'm plotzing from this election night.
Yes.
It is an interesting time. I mean, these are interesting times in general, but in particular, right, an election night where there's so much emotion going on among so many people, so many of the things that we look at in our practice of, right? I mean, how many times have we talked about being caught up in hope and fear?
Yes.
And sometimes, occasionally, remembering what is it to be beyond hope and fear? Where is that place beyond hope and fear? Can we locate that place that's beyond hope and fear within ourselves? Can we function from there? Not just, I mean, it's one thing, it's a huge thing to locate that within yourself when you close your eyes and get quiet, settle down, withdrawn temporarily from the world and what we call meditation. That's huge. I mean, most people don't clearly find that in this life. It's even a bigger deal if we can more and more learn how to function from that place. Can you be engaged in the battle? Can you be out there righteously campaigning for the candidate of your choice? And at the same time, be functioning, have your actions arising from that place that's beyond hope and fear, that's beyond, I mean, it's just that silent ocean of beingness that's below all the changing waves, all the noise of, you know, pro and con and yes and no, win and lose. There's a line in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna, as the embodiment, the personification of that beingness, that transcendent beingness, that ocean of existence, says something like, one to me are loss and gain, one to me are fame and shame. One to me are, there's another one that rhymes, I forget. But you get the idea. From that level, on that level, which is not far away from us, it's not remote, it's more intimate than, it's closer to us than the level where we're involved in winning and losing. Because that's on the level of thoughts and feelings and actions. That's already, you know, and the outward stroke of life. The inmost, what we are in our inmost, is that which Krishna is describing there. It's beyond, not trying to be beyond, not, okay, I'm not going to get carried away.
Yeah.
That's called faking it. It doesn't work. That comes from a very common form of spiritual confusion, which is like, okay, I'm going to repress these emotions, and I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to be even one in shame and fame, loss and gain. No, the real thing means that you can have those emotions. That's part of the stuff that comes. That's part of the waves. It's okay to have the emotions. It's okay to you know, cheer for the winners and cry when your team loses, because all that is rooted in that which is beyond all that loss and gain. That's always there at the background. It's beyond anything as small as the level of emotions. Is that making sense? You hearing that? And as always, don't believe any of this. It's just, prove it out in your own life. Prove it out in the lab of your own experience. Prove it or disprove it. Okay, so it's been a long afternoon and evening of following election returns for some of us, tossing around in those waves of yay team, oh no.
Yeah.
So situation like that, usually you want to do some good solid on-ramp into your meditation. Something to, settle the system, settle the breath, settle the nervous system. So let's do some descending fifths. Okay? Everyone's familiar with that? No? Okay. That's called a descending fifth. And for the way you can remember it, oh, say, can you see? Right? Or if you don't like the national anthem, if you're from south of the Mason-Dixon line, I wish I was in the right. Isn't that interesting? Here's, as in tonight's red versus blue. Back in the day, we had the blue versus the gray, right? On one side of the Mason-Dixon line, we had the Star-Spangled Banner. On the other side, we had Dixie. They're at each other's throats, brother against brother, killing each other. But their anthems both start with the same two notes. Interesting. Interesting. And in fact, those two notes, that's what's called a descending fifth. In music, that's going from, let's just say we're in the key of C. If what I'm going to say next makes sense to you, fine. Otherwise, don't worry about it. If we're in the key of C, a descending fifth would be, well, we're starting with C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, C, D, E, F, G. So G would be the fifth. And then we descend down into what you call it, the root, the one, which would be the C. Now the reason that is significant is that the fifth is as far away as you can get from the root note before you start getting closer to the next C up in the next octave. So therefore, that's the point of maximum tension, maximum suspension. And for that reason, that interval, the fifth, is the one interval, the one distance, the one relationship that's found in every scale, major, minor, Eastern, Western. It's the only thing that's found in every form of music. There's something very fundamental about it. And in fact, almost universally throughout Western music, what happens when you're getting to the end of a verse, the end of the song, the end of the symphony, is some form of that. You're in the fifth, you're in the five, the G, all your pop music, all your rock and roll, your folk songs, jazz, blues, everything is pretty much the penultimate thing is the five, and then the final thing is resolving back into the one. Okay, what does that have to do with us? What it has to do with us is that singing that, being up in the five, and then falling down into the one, vibrationally, what's going on there is suspension, resolution. Okay? So when I sing this, what it feels like to me that it's like a little droplet of something suspended in space. And then when we swoop down into the one, it's like that little droplet falls, melts into this warm bath, warm ocean that just goes on and on endlessly out to the horizons. Right? So suspension and then melting into just melting home. Can you sort of hear that? Okay. And by the way, if you don't like the Star Spangled Banner or Dixie, there's a lot of other things. My favorite is Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones. Ah. And when you do this on your own, by the way, find the lowest, for the one, the second note, the lowest note that you can sing comfortably at full volume. And that's the best place to do that. Among other things, that's a really good vocal exercise. It keeps your voice strong and keeps it from getting old. Literally, it strengthens all the musculature around the vocal cords. And if you do, I do this in the shower every morning because, I talk a lot, and you want your voice to sound sweet and strong and harmonious and not weak and cracked, because you want people to feel good listening to what you say. And actually, I have a chapter on this in my current book. There's actually a more elaborate version of this where you're doing different vowel sounds as well. But for now, we'll just do it on ah. Okay? So, deep breath. Ah. Can you feel that, sort of that feeling of just letting go, just that suspension, and then just letting go, melting into that. So again, deep breath this time. And again. And sitting comfortably with your eyes closed. One more. So now we're done with the singing portion of the evening. And now there's nothing to do. The body's already resting in the seat. The seat is already holding all your weight. The senses naturally are aware of various phenomena as they come and go. Sounds come and go. Sensations come and go. Even with the eyes closed, there's some seeing. Subtle colors behind our eyelids come and go. Airplanes come and go. or at least sounds come and go, and then the thought, hey, that's an airplane, that comes and goes. And just notice how all the coming and going happens in a beautifully automatic way. It's all happening by itself. There's no doing from our side, no managing, no directing. We're completely unemployed. We have no choices to make. What could we choose? Could we choose what sound we'll hear next? Can you even choose what thought you'll think next? No, stuff just bubbles up like water bubbling up in a fountain, fresh, new, in every fresh moment, in every now. And it's only ever now. It's never 1 second ago or 1 second from now. So it's too late to change the present experience. We're always 1 moment too late to change the present experience. So we may as well give up. Deeply, deeply give up, surrender. And giving up is great here. It's freedom. We're not giving up being in charge. We're giving up trying to be in charge. We were never in charge. So we can finally stop trying. And just resting in the situation as it is. Where the thoughts and sensations, the sounds, the feelings, all come and go on their own. Like different kinds of weather coming and going in the sky. Breezes, rain, snow, clouds, rainbows. And we are like the sky. We are the open space, the aware space, within which all the weather, all the experiences come and go on their own. So there's nothing to do. Just rest in that situation as it is. Just relax into your own sky-like, space-like nature. With all the various thoughts and sounds and so forth coming and going within you, within that open space. Doesn't matter what they are. The sky does not have favorite kinds of weather. Sky is just space. not trying to concentrate or focus on anything. Not trying to breathe any special way or have any special kind of experience. Not trying to be mindful or meditative or tranquil. Just innocent, just open, just nothing in particular. The sky doesn't try to be mindful of the weather passing through it, or tranquil, or it just is. Anytime you feel you're struggling with something, a thought or a feeling, or resisting something or holding on to something, just relax your grip on it. That's all. Relax your grip and relax back into yourself. Relax back into this open, spacious, sky-like awareness which you are. Again and again. Never anything else to do. Now, if I were to ring the bell right now to signal the end of the meditation, is there something you're doing now that you would stop doing? Some, even subtly, quietly, some like it, okay, I can drop that now. If so, drop it now. That subtle effort, that subtle intention, just throw it into the fire. Throw everything into the fire. And just rest in the empty space that remains when you throw everything into the fire. And as always, take a couple of minutes to bring the body back to a more active state before you open your eyes. Just easing out. So when you feel ready, when the body feels ready, you can slowly open the eyes. Okay, how's everyone doing? Everyone good? If you're still opening your eyes, take your time. Any questions or comments? It's real simple. I had actually a very good question a few days ago that came in via email from someone who was reading my book, Natural Meditation. He may be watching tonight. Hi, I'm sorry I forget, Bill, Bob. Hi, if you're out there. And he had a great question, which was he mentioned that there's a place, I think I have a whole chapter on this or something in that book on the idea of ignoring your thoughts. And that it's a big discovery that you can ignore your thoughts. Just because there's a thought there doesn't mean you have to do anything about it. All right? So his predicament was, he said, you know, I'm trying to ignore the thoughts, but they just keep being there. They keep being there. And so, you know, if I want to really ignore the thoughts, I have to like come up with something else, something to like focus my attention on so I can ignore the thoughts. And after a while, it just gets to be exhausting. Okay. So, what, maybe to do that someday. You'll all be in a situation someday to do that, helping someone along with this stuff. So, if you had to answer the email, how would you answer that one? I'm trying to ignore the thoughts, but I can't. They just keep being there. They just go on. And so I just try to distract myself with this or that, and then it becomes exhausting. What should I do? What would you tell him?
Maybe don't try to ignore it.
Don't try to ignore it. Okay. And then let's say I'll be the other guy and I say, but what do I do?
Loosen your grip. Loosen your grip.
Loosen your grip. I like that. Yeah, that always works.
You say.
Yeah, and that's just relax your grip. That's always the most you ever have to do. But in this case, I mean, in terms of method, that's true. That we always have method and we have view, right? We have, in other words, what we do, which is not much, and what our perspective, our insight into what's what here. And sometimes if the insight is faulty, right, if the view is faulty, then we're going to keep running into that. You know, and method we have to keep practicing. You get up every day and, you know, sit down and practice your meditation. Whereas view, if we've been dealing with a wrong view, if we just get the view right, in a more accurate view of what's what, just see it clearly once what's going on, that's enough. You don't have to keep finding out over and over, oh, this tiger that was terrifying me is just a paper tiger. You see through it once, oh, look, it's made out of paper, and that's it. Your blood pressure drops, gets back to normal again. You stop having your tiger anxiety, and you don't have to get up tomorrow morning and go, oh, let's see, what's the tiger made of? You see it once, and you're not going to be fooled anymore. So in this case, this person's view was the problem. Oh, I'm trying to ignore thoughts, but they keep being there. What's the fundamental fallacy? What's the fundamental error in the view, in the way he's describing that?
Because he's
taking a step back and letting it.
Not taking a step back, yeah, and letting
just letting the thoughts go.
And letting the thoughts go. He said, but again, I'm playing his role. But I'm trying to let them go. But they don't go away. They keep being there. I'm trying to let them go. Yeah.
Sometimes you talk about a thought as another kind of sensation. And if you're thinking about what to do with the thought, like have to let it go, that's another sensation about the sensation.
It's another?
It's kind of like another sensation about the sensation. You're taking an action.
Yeah, well, I think there's two good things that you've raised here. I want to clearly sort of differentiate them. The one, which can be a very useful aspect of our perspective, is to regard thoughts just as another sensation. You know, and that's a thing we get from Buddhist psychology, where thinking is considered the sixth sense. Right, the usual five senses, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, and then the sixth would be thinking. Thinking. Oh, yeah, that's cool, isn't it, right? Oh, there's nothing special about thoughts. Thoughts are just like sounds. They're a little bit quieter. They're just things. They're just things where they're just like part of the landscape. You know, the fact that, oh, there's these square windows here. What do you call these? Clear stories here. There's a square thing. Or there's a green couch there. There's a green thing. I don't have to do anything about it. It's just part of the landscape. There's this sound here, the sound of an engine idling out in the street. Okay, that's just there. It just is what it is. Okay, there's a thought here. It's just there. It is what it is. Just part of the 360-degree tapestry of present experience in each moment. So that can be useful. Nothing special about it. It's just there. One of the six senses. And the six senses are always going to be there. They're supposed to be there. The nose is supposed to smell aromas. The tongue is supposed to taste flavors. The ear is supposed to hear sounds. The eye is supposed to see shapes and colors. The sense of touch is supposed to feel textures and surfaces. And the mind is supposed to apprehend thoughts. It's right on, doing just what it's supposed to do. So that works, that's useful. But now there's the other aspect of what you said, Sue Ellen, which is, let me put it in a slightly different way that may make it a little clearer. When we say, gee, I'm trying to ignore these thoughts, but they keep being there. Can you see there's an unspoken assumption there. There's something implicit there, which is, I have to get rid of these thoughts. There's something wrong with the thoughts being there. Now that notion that there's something wrong with thoughts being here, that I have to get rid of them somehow, that notion is what is known as a thought. That's just another thought. The thought of, what am I going to cook for dinner tonight, or who's going to win the election tonight? There's those thoughts. And then there's the thought, oh, gee, I got all these thoughts about dinner and elections. It's unsatisfactory for me to have these thoughts. That's what's known as another thought. And they're all just thoughts. They all have equal status. They're all just like the engine idling in the street or the airplane going overhead. They're just more background noise. See, and this is getting us down to the fundamental misunderstanding that this person had. And actually, I answered his email, and right away he got it. He wrote, right, great, thank you. That's what I needed to hear. Which is simply this. Ignoring the thoughts does not mean they're supposed to go away. If you say, okay, I'm going to ignore the thought, oh man, it keeps being there, you're not ignoring it. You're requiring it to leave. That's not ignoring. Ignoring something means, okay, you can be here. I'm going to ignore you. I'm not going to pay you much mind. You can be here or not be here. I don't care. It's all fine. That's ignoring. Are you hearing that? Yeah. It's a very, I think, important, very powerful aspect of our view on this thing. You getting that? Bill? Bob? The power of ignoring, it's so powerful and it's so simple. It saves us from having to go through a lot of, okay, I need this to go away, I'm going to try not to try, I'm going to, all this chasing your tail. Whatever's going on, just ignore it. Ignore your thoughts, ignore your feelings. We're not frequently told to ignore our feelings. We're not frequently told that to have the perspective, okay, this feeling's here, fine. This different feeling's here, fine. This feeling goes away, fine. That feeling goes away or comes or stays or, I don't know, I can't keep track. It's just a bunch of stuff coming and going, a bunch of phenomena. Doesn't matter how you feel. I love saying that. People don't often say that in this life. Doesn't matter how you feel. We have a whole culture, around, oh, we're going to deal with our feelings now, and this feeling is so precious, and that feeling is so problematic, and blah, 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 blah. Feelings come and go. Most of the time, I think when people say, okay, listen, I want to talk about my feelings, they're not even really talking about feelings. They're talking about thoughts. You know? Feelings feel a certain way. Feelings are visceral. When you feel joy, there's a thing going on in your nervous system. It's a specific kind of flavor, kind of an effervescence around the chest or the cranium or something, right? Joy. Depression is a different feeling. It's like a weighted down on the top of your head and so forth. Shock is a feeling. These are visceral, they're somatic. I think probably 90-something% of the time when people are talking about their feelings, they may have had a feeling once, but it's just all become a discussion. It's become thoughts. I'm going to sort out my feelings. Mostly, or when someone says, I feel that, as soon as they say, I feel that, as soon as we have the that, we know they're talking about thoughts. And again, it's a matter of view, of perspective. It's useful to get this stuff sorted out. When you see it clearly, it all starts to lose its power over you. It's clear what's what. Okay, thoughts are thoughts, feelings are feelings, colors are the colors, the sounds are the sounds. Everything's right in place. And which part of it is I? Are you the colors that you see? Or are you that which sees the colors? Come on. It's not a trick question. Yeah, you're that which sees the colors, obviously. Right? I'm looking at the green couch. Am I the green? No, I'm that which is aware of the green, the color green and the shape that goes with it, what I call couch. And then the thought, oh, that's a couch. I'm that which is aware of my thoughts. I'm that which is aware of what I see. Not only am I aware of what I see with my vision, I'm aware of my vision itself. I'm aware that there's certain things a little messed up in my right eye, and my left eye is better. Right? So even the vision itself is an object of experience. Can you be anything that you experience? Or are you the experiencer? You're the experiencer. You're not the colors, you're that which experiences the colors. You're not the sounds, you're that which experiences the sounds. You're not the thoughts. You're that which experiences the thoughts. And thoughts get tricky because we build up these whole structures of thoughts that are, a whole lot of it is about ourself and what I supposedly am. But that's not what I am. Those are thoughts that I am experiencing. I'm really like this, and I'm that, and that. No, you're not. You're really like nothing. You're like a vast, and thank God, you're like a vast open space within which these thoughts are experienced. Which is fine, which is perfect. Except that we get sucked into them. We get confused and start to identify with them. We think we are our thoughts. And that's where the problems happen. That's where no one better challenge my thoughts, because I think those thoughts are what I am. Then a threat to my thoughts becomes a threat to me. You know, and we can especially see this year in politics, where, you know, the politics have become so polarized. And I watched an interesting documentary on Netflix on my plane going out to the East Coast last week. It was a very good doc called, I think it was called Best of Enemies. And did you see that? Wasn't that good?
A long time ago, yeah.
Yeah. And that was about the William F. Buckley and Gore Vidal, and it centers on the series of debates that they did for ABC News during the 1968 presidential conventions. Yeah, and the film very effectively made the point that that was kind of the ground zero of what we have in our political culture now, which was, you know, before that it was more like, okay, well, there's this policy position, that policy position, you know. Kennedy might have more of this policy, Nixon might have more of this policy, but this, in that Buckley-Vidal thing, they were two such different personalities, came from two very different kind of cultural assumptions, that it was the beginning of really identity politics. You know, we've heard that phrase a lot this year. It's an interesting phrase from our point of view. Identity politics. Your politics become your identity. Where we think, I am these convictions. Then if someone comes along, and you see how nasty and personal it became between Vidal and Buckley, that, you know, to the day they died, each one of them, they never let go of that animosity and resentment. Yeah.
Right.
Well, even after one of them died,
Yeah, right.
we heard Vidal,
Yeah.
years after Buckley died.
Yeah.
He spoke, and somebody said, "Do you have any things, remorse or feelings
He
about
died recently.
Yeah.
Buckley?
Mm-hmm.
Anything you want to say?" And Vidal said, "Yeah, I just want to tell him I hope it's not too hot down there."
Just want to tell them, I hope it's not too hot down there. Yeah. Yeah. No, they and you know, that's awful. It's awful. It's awful for the person who's stuck in that kind of animosity, because that's toxic.
Yes.
That's toxic. It does nothing to the person that you're harboring the resentment for.
Right.
It affects the one who's harboring it.
Yeah.
You know, the Dalai Lama has a beautiful way of talking about this. He said, you know, when you're stuck in that resentment, you're tossing and turning at night, you can't sleep. The one that did the, you know, whatever the harm was to you, he's sleeping like a baby. He's long since forgotten about it all.
That makes it even more aggravating.
Yeah, it makes it more aggravating. Yeah, but you know, it's up to you to be caught in that, or to choose to drop it. But as long as you think it's you, as long as your identity is completely defined by that, as it seems to have been with Buckley and Vidal, then you can't drop it, because that's like dropping yourself. That's death. That's annihilation of what you are. You know, and there's so much of people identifying with their religions. So if someone comes along, you know, and that's not just about, you know, government or something. It's about, you know, the absolute, the eternal, the infinite, and, you know, so if someone comes along with a conviction, a religious conviction that challenges yours, that's a complete existential threat. That person's got to be converted or killed for you to be okay. So can you see, it's very, very useful. It's very, very liberating to see that these thoughts are just thoughts. It's fine to have them. In fact, being clear on what they are makes it okay to have them. I mean, you know, me, I'm all about thoughts. I'm, you know, the mind is my, you know, major erogenous zone. You know, I you know, writing and speaking, and, you know, that's reading, that's my thing. But there's just a kind of a joyful, liberated quality to it when you know, when you don't take it too deeply, when you know it's all, in a way, it's kind of all for, what do they say, for entertainment purposes only. Because thoughts can't take you to ultimate truth. They're too puny. They're not big enough to wrap themselves. Or ultimate truth is infinite. Any thought is finite. Whatever you think about the infinite, it's wrong. By definition. Because whatever you think about the infinite is not the infinite, it's something you think. It's a thought. The infinite, awakening, enlightenment, it's not what you think. So when we say it's not what you think, people think, oh, okay, I don't have the right idea, I need a different idea, then it'll be what I think. No, it'll never be what you think. By definition. It's like trying to measure the ocean with a teacup. Right? It can't be apprehended by the thinking mind, by the thought-generating aspect of mind. But it's experienced with ease by just settling into what it is, which is beyond thought. Hi, honey. Right? We just settle, and you know, everyone here and everyone out there, you've been, you know, doing this for a little while, and we all know, sometimes we feel we know with more clarity, sometimes with less clarity, but what that place, and we put place in quotation marks, what that place is, that's beyond thought. That's just the silence, that's just the isness, where it's just, oh, home free, nothing to think about here. Thinking doesn't work here. No thoughts, no colors, no sounds. The colors and sounds and the thoughts are still there. They're in the background somewhere. Again, back to this thing about ignoring thoughts. We don't have to get rid of them. They're up here on the surface. We ignore them. We're enjoying the silent depth of beingness, which is beyond all that.
It's like you see the books and they're there.
I'm sorry, say it again?
It's like you see the books
You see the books behind me?
and they're there, but
Yeah.
you don't have
Yeah, but you don't have to, but you're not focused on them. You're not focused on them. You're paying attention to something else. In this case, you're paying attention to some guy up here talking.
right.
Right. Yeah, like that. And what happens in meditation is our attention gets drawn within to this place, quote unquote, of transcendence, of silence. So we wind up focused on that in the same way that at this moment you're focused on this guy sitting here talking. So the books go out of focus. Yeah, that's exactly right. So in this case, in the case of meditation, we get focused on the silence. Not by trying to focus on it, because as we know, trying just becomes another form of agitation, another form of getting caught up in the stuff, the books. But just naturally allowing ourselves to be kind of sucked into that. And then the other stuff's there, but somewhere in the background. And that actually is more, it's more useful than if we could just go into total pure silence with nothing in the background. And the reason it's more useful is that we're cultivating the ability to, so to speak, multitask. Except it's not really a task. We're cultivating the ability to be aware of the absolute and the relative at the same time, the silent depths of beingness and the tossing waves of, time and space and phenomena. We're cultivating the ability to have both at the same time. And that's going to be useful when we open our eyes, come back out into the world of activity. See, if in meditation we can have the silence with all the noise and activity in the background, that's getting very close to being able to come out, go back into the activity, and have the silence in the background. Right? And it's very important to have that integration. My old teacher, Maharishi, used to always talk about that. 200% of life, he would always say. You need the 200%. The inward stroke, the outward stroke, you need to integrate them. And he really emphasized that. You go in, you plunge into the silence, you plunge into the meditation, and then you come out and you plunge into the activity. He said, otherwise, he said, you could sit in a cave, and coming from India, there's a tradition of people doing that. He said, you can sit in a cave for 50 years and just feel completely like you're marinating in silence, that perfect, that's it. I'm just living that boundless, silent beingness 24/7. He said, but if you haven't integrated it with activity, the moment you walk out of the cave, you lose it. So that integration, and it comes down to this kind of simple, dumb thing of being kind of socked into the silence and meditation, and there's still some noise in the background, there's some barking dog, there's still some airplane engine, whatever, being cognizant of both at once. Which seems like, no big deal. That is really the model of the whole thing. Right there in a nutshell is where we're going with this. Okay. Anything else? Yeah.
Is the back and forth of the integration, is that kind of the integration of needing to have purpose versus no purpose in this world? Nothing to do, nothing to accomplish, nothing to improve, nothing to make better or make worse, just to have no kind of involvement with the world versus purpose, drive, motivation, identity.
Okay, so the question is this back and forth, this integration by going back and forth between the inner silence and the outer activity. You're saying, is it a matter of having purpose or not having purpose? Is that your
Well,
question?
one state is a state of purposelessness, and the other
Yes.
is a state of purpose.
Yeah, yeah. The one, the resting in the silence, is purposelessness, because it's everythinglessness. You know, there's not, in that sense, there's nothing special about purpose being missing. Everything's missing, perfectly empty. And when we use word like empty, to some people that can sound like negative, like, oh, empty, like, you know, existential void. But that's not empty. That's full of this, you know, oh, feeling, right? And again, I don't have to explain that to you. You've all experienced that. Oh, that emptiness is just radiant, luminous emptiness, so to speak. It's delicious. It's freedom. So yeah, purpose, I mean, it's very interesting, because this word purpose, what it implies is like, okay, I'm here and I need, you also use that word intention. I'm here and I need to, or I want to, or I feel impelled to move there to accomplish that goal. Okay? And of course, in the world of activity, that makes perfect sense. That's perfectly useful. We set these goals, we get stuff done. Otherwise, you know, everything is kind of aimless and confused, and just kind of, everything's kind of just limp and shapeless. So it makes perfect sense. So yeah, I want to get this book written by this deadline, or I want to accomplish this thing for my family. I want to fix up the house. I want to, whatever it is. You know, the large things, the small things. This morning I'm gonna cook up these eggs and toast. I'm gonna get the coffee off the stove before it, you know, boils for too long. Whatever it is, big and small purposes. That's the nature of functioning in the world. Now, the nature of functioning out of the world and the transcendent, of really non-functioning, of meditation, is purposelessness. So that makes for a very interesting thing when we start to integrate them. Because having purpose, being purposeful, has the great advantage of we get stuff done. But it has the disadvantage of we're kind of, you know, and you did an interesting thing with your tone of voice there, where you described kind of purpose. Oh, got to get this. You know, there is a kind of, can be a kind of a weight to it. The purposelessness in meditation of just being, there's the freedom, the wonderful freedom from that weight, but we don't get anything done. Now, can you see where all this is going when we integrate the two? If more and more we're able to do our deeds, do our activity, moment by moment, spontaneously doing it as the expression of that silence, maybe we could be achieving all this stuff, but it's all within the flavor of that wonderful freedom, without that weight, that on it. And that, in fact, is what happens. And we see that flavor whenever we see great artists creating, great athletes, you know, playing at the top of their game, where it's just, oh, it's like butter, you know, as they say, like butter. It's just like, whoa. When I was little, my dad was a musician, and God, this must have been about maybe the early 60s. And my dad was playing, he was a freelancer. He played the oboe, and I used to go to a lot of his shows, and he played at the Greek Theater, and it was a production of the Midsummer Night's Dream, the ballet. And the role of Oberon was being danced by this hot new dancer named Nureyev, Rudolf Nureyev. And I was like 9, 10 years old. To this day, it blows my mind. The man levitated. it was just like he was weightless. It was just like he went up in the air and he could stay there as long as he wanted. I mean, that's what it seemed like. And there's some, and here I'm, all these decades later, still feeling inspired by that. And that's how we are with, all kinds of great art and great athletic performance and so forth, because it has that flavor of the achieving the purpose, right? Rising up in the air, making the painting, scoring the basket, but it's doing it from that place of freedom, of weightlessness, of just perfect flow. So whenever we see that, we're so, just inspired by it, because it's a little window into us, into our life at the highest level. We have an instinct that, yeah, this is what I want. This is what life is supposed to be like. We know that. We have that inherent wisdom. Can you hear that? Is that? Yeah. Yeah. So when you go plunge into activity, go 100% into purpose. And when you plunge into meditation, let go of purpose. Nothing to do, whatever, just, I don't know nothing. Nowhere to go, no way to get there. Don't mix up the two. The best way to get it integrated is to be real clear about do this one all the way and do that one all the way. Don't try to do your activity like, oh yeah, whatever. That's not enlightenment. That's just being flaky. But, after a while, actually, as it starts to get integrated, sometimes at first you can feel, because it's a new way of functioning, you may find yourself going, God, am I okay? Am I getting flaky? Am I getting lazy? Have I lost has this meditation destroyed my conscientiousness? No, and I point this out because this is a thing that does happen to people sometimes as this kind of change happens in your life, because we're used to feeling that pressure, that heaviness of that whenever we're on doing stuff on purpose, whenever we're on task, we feel that pushing down on us. And then as it starts to lift, you might start to think, gee, am I okay? Am I shirking? And you look and you go, I'm still getting stuff done. It's just that weight is gone. That sense of is gone. But I'm getting this stuff done just as well. I'm getting it done better, actually. Sometimes other people actually help give you the confirmation. You go, God, I'm getting so lazy, and the other person will tell you, no, look, you accomplished this and this and this and this. And you go, oh yeah, I guess I did. Because your life more and more feels like you're not doing anything. Like all the doing is just being. All the waves, even the great big tsunamis are just ocean. That's pretty cool. Okay, so our next meeting is going to be 1 week from tonight. Remember, we worked this out on the calendar, and that it has to do with then later in the month so that we don't run into Thanksgiving. Okay, so tonight is November 6th. So our next session here and our next session out there in YouTube land will be 1 week from tonight on November 13th. Okay? Good. So, may all beings swiftly realize that delicious freedom of just being and discover that they can engage in all the doing they need to without ever losing the freedom of being. and thus find the true happiness. And thus may all conflict spontaneously drain out of our lives and peace prevail everywhere. And the Sanskrit language for that prayer, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.